from Yowawa Studios in beautiful downtown Niagara Falls. Coming up now, we've got Donta Myles and Johnny Campanella.
That's good.
We have another guest in studio we'd like to introduce, and that is Wade VanValkenburgh. Good to see you, Wade. Is everyone's mic working?
Yes, sir.
Oh, Wade, there's a switch on your mic. You can flick it up. And what do you say?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Clear.
Great.
There we go.
Yep, you want to be close to that one. Great. Gentlemen, I'm going to leave the show in your hands now. Welcome to Niagara Voices.
Yes, welcome.
What's going on tonight? Hey, glad you guys are here.
Yes, glad you guys are here. I'd like to introduce our special guest, Wade. I don't want to say your last name wrong. So
It's VanValkenburgh.
VanValkenburgh here. If you'd like to just, say what you're about. And
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on the Niagara Voices. I've seen a couple of you guys' shows, and, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful that we have a lot of people speaking out in Niagara County, and really, truly respect what you guys are doing. So I'm just a little quick about myself. Niagara County Green Chairman. I've been with the Green Party for quite a while. I was nominated to run in a special election in Lockport for city mayor. Just trying to do great things for our county, for the environment, for peace, for ecology and social justice.
thank you so much for being here.
No problem. Appreciate it.
I'll be turning up your mic, and you'll notice, ladies and gentlemen, he is in the aquarium room. We're going to move him through some of the different rooms here.
Right now, so.
Watch
out. Yeah, don't get
All right,
stung.
it's your show.
It's sweet. Let's just hop right into it.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about today, bro?
Well, I'd like to bring up something that's pretty recent and just shocked me all around. But the protest that was going on in Kenosha in Wisconsin was very shocking, to say the least. It was, it was, of course, a just reason to protest, with Jacob Blake getting shot 7 times in the back, with his kids in the van, allegedly. I got to clarify to make sure that that was 100% about the kids. I mean, that was true. But, the protest was going on, and then they had a good number of men that were, armed with assault rifles that were protecting private property, which that's been going on since the George Floyd protests, and that's always been fine. But for some reason, this was a terrible experience. So what happened was a 17-year-old by the name of Kyle Rittenhouse. He, they say, allegedly killed Anthony M. Huber, and I have to find his first name, but his last name is Rosenbaum. And he killed them point blank. But
right.
So what happened was, he said there's video too, so you can all check this out if you literally go on YouTube and you type it in Kenosha, Kyle Rittenhouse, and there's different angles. But what happened was, what apparently was going on was, like, the protesters went after him, and to protect himself, he shot. One guy ended up getting shot in the head. He checked on him while this camera is following him. I believe it was the Daily Caller, and the YouTube channel. And what happened was, so he checked on him, and then you hear him on the phone say, "Oh my God, I just killed someone," as he runs by. Then another video picks up where he's running towards the police, and other people are running after him, which I don't know if I would run after someone who just shot someone in the head, just because, for safety reasons, but they tried to stop him, so I understand that. But he fell, and as one of the guys was going to try to, keep him down for the police to get him, he shot that guy in the stomach, and I believe that was the second gentleman who passed away. The first was shot in the head. And then another man that was near the scene and saw the other guy got shot, that was going after Kyle, got shot in his bicep. And then after that, he ran and walked to the police, like where the National Guard vans were coming right at him, and he would put his hands up and down, which I thought, and they literally acted like he was just some random person walking down the street. They didn't stop and immediately tell him to lay down on the ground, which and he just walked right up, to them and past them. They went to go help the people, thankfully, but I just find it odd that they just were almost calm, cool, and collected with him with a weapon. You know what I mean? Coming at him. Where if it was someone of color, I don't believe that would have been the case.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't have.
Right.
I mean, and see, I've been watching videos myself, and you know, we're in a troubled time, you know, in this country, and I just have to keep it 100. It wouldn't be like me not to. You know, you know, you scroll through Facebook, I see a lot of like racist comments and different like very just nasty type of things to, you know what I mean? It baffles me when, you know, if a young man, you know, gets shot and killed or gets shot 7 times in the back, the first thing that the media does, a young black man, and I've seen that a lot, is that they try to find the worst, find their history.
The worst thing about them.
You know, they were in, you know, they stole a pack of bubble gum from, you know, Slipco's back in 1989. And yeah, you know, and that's supposed to justify the reason of, you know what I mean, of someone being killed or someone being basically, you know, and these are terroristic acts. We call everyone terrorists, you know, when it's outside of the country, but when it's done right here in our own land, then, you know, I don't know. I know
they're a group. Yeah, they're not, and it shouldn't be that way.
I would definitely say that you know, criminals don't deserve to be killed as well. And that's, you know, it doesn't matter if they stole something, doesn't matter if they shot somebody. What we should be doing is having our justice system work for us. And we got to get, you know, what we did out here in Niagara County, out here in Niagara Falls with the peacemakers out here in Lockport. We really set the example when it comes to we really set the example when it comes to the protests.
Yes,
and,
I was very proud.
I you know, extremely proud. And maybe we need to get out to Wisconsin and show these cats how to do it, because this is it's really just the divide is keeping us divided.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say real quick, well, on that point, and then when do we stop, you know, judging people for their past and you know, completely denying anything that they've done since their past mistakes, or you know, or just, you know, and treating them like a human, like an actual human. But what I wanted to say is what's going on though with this 17-year-old that, you know, shot and killed the 2 protesters and shot some other protesters. They're trying to say that I've heard some media sources have said, you know, that he's a Trump supporter and all those men that were there were Trump supporters. But there is a YouTube channel, Slightly Offensive. Now, I always tell people, you know, I look at both sources, both sides. So this channel is more of on the right, but you know, but they were there. They had the footage, so that's a source, and they were speaking to the kid himself and other men around, and they were saying how they are liberals and they're fine with the riders were arguing with them, and they were saying that they're fine with the riders attacking police and police gear, equipment, and government buildings, but they just don't want, you know, private property destroyed. That's what they were saying. So I just wanted to give people the knowledge, the clarification of there are, and I can even link that too. But there are videos of them being interviewed right before this incident happened on how they viewed, I guess, where they stand in politics. And so I mean, that doesn't say that every single one of them was a liberal, but they said that they're all, one man or two said they were all a bunch of liberal men who just didn't want their private properties damaged. And so that narrative could be spun in a negative way for no reason. We don't need to add any more you know, hearsay or judgment on such a already horrific incident, you know. And so that's why it's so important, I always say, to go and check both sides of the fence, you know. Or I mean, there's not even both, I would say, like, you know, 3, there's all different sides of the fence. Make sure, because you never know. One side could be, you know, like they always say, there's 2 people, you have 2 friends, they get in a fight. Each one has their story, their side of the story. You got to hear both out, and then you make your own mind up. But
yeah, well,
that was
I tell
terrible.
You, and he's 17. He's under the age, as far as even carrying. you know, and from the information that I believe I got, his mother dropped him off. Like, his mother was his ride to this protest and knew that he was, you know, carrying, knew that he had this assault rifle. And it's I don't know, it's mind-boggling. And I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. At the end of the day, if it was if it was a person of color with that would have been a problem. I mean, you know, I'm sorry. It's the truth. It would have turned out completely different. I've seen it was another video. I couldn't post it because it was a personal page of someone else from Instagram, but it was two videos. It was the video of a man. It was the Blake video where he was trying to get in his car, and then there was another video of a Caucasian man who was on his way to the car, and the police was trying to get him. It was almost identical situation, and the police tried to get him, and the guy turned around, flung the door open, pushed the police. The police tased the man. The man actually ran after the police. The police was actually running away from the guy. He didn't even pull his gun out. He didn't do none of that. The guy ran back to the car. The police came back to the car, yelling, screaming for him to get out. The guy got in the car, did a circle, and ran and bashed the police car. Like, I'm looking at, and you see these two videos where I've seen a video where a Caucasian man with a samurai sword, like a machete, was like swinging at like officers, and they were able to get a hold of him. You know what I mean? Get him down, and he made it. You know, he had a fair trial. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I think my thing is this. It's not that you know. No, nobody's looking for no pass. See things for a special pass. See things for what they are. You know
Equally,
what I mean? And be realistic. You know what I mean? I think that's another thing, especially when we're doing like this young guy. He can walk right to the police with an assault rifle, walk past them, and go home and go to sleep that night. You know what I mean? Where.
And they're giving him time also to get a legal team together,
right? See,
which is ridiculous.
Come on now, like this stuff is realistic. You know what I mean? And then when people talk about all of these other instances, well, what about the black guy that killed the little boy? First of all, he was wrong, yes, and he's not.
Murder is a murderer.
Murder is a murder. He's not going to see the light of day. The problem is what I look at it as is. He's not held to a specific standard because he doesn't wear a badge, and taxpayer dollars doesn't go to him for him to serve and protect. And it doesn't need to be a norm. And I think that's the part that I'm like frustrated, and a lot of people are frustrated about, is because my tax dollars are paying, and we don't want that to even become somewhat of a norm anywhere, because you're here to serve and protect. Like, if I get it, if it's a situation, my tax dollars are paying you to come and help take care of a situation. But if the person that I'm calling to help me is killing people that look like me as if it's a sport, then I got a problem.
Right.
So you got to, just people, you have to look at it for what it is. You know what I mean? And
really, where's the cause coming from?
Right.
You know, we see. We're so segregated in our country. Where there's so many of these police officers probably only had maybe 2 or 3 African Americans in their school growing up, and so there is no understanding of cultures. There's no understanding that. Of a common bond, really,
especially like Wisconsin, where it's not so.
We have it a little more. We're a little more
diverse
with the times. Here in Niagara County, compared to especially southern states.
Right.
There's that segregation that has just been splitting us from childhood is really, a cause for maybe a lot of things that we're seeing, and it's really just. It's disgusting, and I do have a question about the person Kyle who murdered 2 and seriously injured 1. Now, from what you guys were saying, that his mother dropped him off at these protests. But then you have these people on the right saying that, you know, they're defending private property. Whose private property was being defended? Because it sounds like he was dropped off at a protest, and you know, he was going out there
Right,
to
and we
cause
don't
it.
know if he was related to them, knew them, or if he was just there. Yeah, right, on his own accord.
These are things that need to be looked into.
Yeah.
You know, if he's if there is a threat on somebody comes to your house and you know they're going to destroy your shit, then you know you have the right, if they're on your property, to do something about it, to defend your own, to defend your family.
Why go that hard for a property that's not yours too?
Right. So there's many questions that need to be asked and answered. So I know you guys are more informed about this. So please.
No, I appreciate your
still,
opinion. I mean,
you know what happens, and we're only privy to what media puts out. You know what I mean? So, and there's always something new that comes out. Yeah. I think we just have to
with a biased tone to both sides.
such a
can't
you
just
know
be
what I
the
mean?
straight truth. Let's
call it what it is. You know what I mean? I don't know, and it's a reason. So it is a reason why there is such a level of frustration in America, and it is such a divide. And I said this in previous shows. The biggest thing is that there's just an education piece as it pertains to racism in America, and some people are colorblind to it. But my thing is that you have to be able to see what's going on. You know what I mean?
That statement about the blue. I don't care if you're blue, black.
Well,
that's what it's not a good statement, because you do need to see color to see the problems.
Right, because what happens is, you know, in order for you and just, I always say empathy over apathy, because we have a lot of apathy. It's a lot of people that just don't care. You know what I mean?
Ignorant,
or purposely,
blissful,
you know,
ignorant,
you know, So
I know many people might not agree with me on this, but I will say that it's not a blue live; it's a blue fucking shirt.
Right. Oh, that's true.
And your job doesn't define who or what you think. We all should be one, and we continue to have that Blue Lives Matter, when really their justification for it isn't. I don't see any justification for saying Blue Lives Matter, because there's no such thing as a blue life.
You literally just said my that was a post that I put up, and I'll restate it again. I said, now unless you're an avatar, there's no such thing as a blue life.
Right.
I said, we need to stop equating someone's career with someone's racial identity.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And
there's no such thing as a blue life. You know what I mean? And I've seen black folks in blue uniforms where their lives didn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So,
like the man who was killed during the George Floyd protest.
Right.
He was protecting the store, and they killed him.
So it's like, you know, let's call it what it is. I know a lot of people don't feel, you know, it's an uncomfortable conversation. And guess what? If it's uncomfortable to talk about it, can you imagine living it? Like, that's my thing. I'm sitting here in the studio.
Right.
And I got my kids here, and I got my son, and I had a video about this on my page, where my son, you know, he's on the autistic spectrum. And I always, you know, I'm always thankful to God for his progression and how far he has come. But from looking at how black men are treated with this unarmed shooting and shooting in the back, like that's cowardly, and seeing for no reason.
Training is,
you know, and guess what? And here's the thing: you can't even train that out of them. You just people need to be
that's
people need to be screened and not trained.
Right.
Dante, I have a.
We were talking about that.
Dante, I have a son who's on the spectrum as well, and you know this is where we need that training, because there are more people on the spectrum than there was 20 years ago.
We spoke about this last week,
and without that training, we are going to see a lot more casualties, a lot more just awfulness, because there is the thing with children, adults on the spectrum who have a sensory processing disorders.
Exactly.
Where, that loud noise or the social miscues that come along with it
Very
can
important.
get you killed.
Right. You scream.
Right.
I mean,
They can get you killed.
That black man who was killed, there's a video where he's on the floor and he's, he had autism and he was trying his best to follow what they were telling him. He was on the floor, no weapon, I believe, and they just
open
took him
fire.
out. Yeah.
Like it was
Without
a
even
sport.
like trying any other way. And what I wanted to mention about police, so I guess when people say Blue Matters, they should be, I understand what you're saying, because it should be more of a specific thing saying like, because we have to realize that each individual in the police force is their own individual, and that, just like, one bad person of a race doesn't define the whole thing. You know what I mean? So there's good and bad. And then, but I understand, there is frustration because this is an issue. We have to look at it as like, recently this has been a very terrible injustice of a lot of unarmed black men and women being killed. So this is a situation where, it is a right to be able to say like, look, you could support the police, but we have to make things a bit more intellectually made. I feel like we need to, specifically like you were saying, Donta, about screen. We need to be, I think, way more take longer time to do a process. For example, like reality shows do a whole interview. They do a psych test. They do countless interviews and psych tests, and they need to do this with police through the academy, and I think also throughout their career. Keeping up, because they could be fine when they're in it and then start, and then maybe down the line something happens to them personally, and then their best judgment doesn't come out, or something that was in them all along came out, like someone who is Barbara's mentioned it, someone who is not like more of an introvert and keeps things in.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you what bothers me about the blue and the all and these other lives matter that pops up. Because until these different inhumane acts took place, and the Black Lives Matter came forward, no one else was talking about blue lives or all lives or any other lives mattering prior to.
Right.
But so what it looks like is nothing more than a counter, and I'm gonna say what I gotta say because it's just the truth. It becomes more of a counter to a movement that's righteous. It's like, hey, we're not saying all lives don't matter, but all lives aren't mattering when one group of people's lives aren't mattering.
The metaphor you used about the house is on fire.
Yeah, if my house is on fire and I call the fire department and someone says, hey, we need to spray all the houses because all houses matter. Or you're celebrating your mother on Mother's Day, and I come to you and say, well, all mothers matter, not just yours.
Right.
Or the big one that I always talk about because it's a soft spot for a lot of people, 9/11. When you're down at ground zero and you're paying homage and you're what I'm saying, in remembrance of the Twin Towers. If I can't, can you imagine me coming down there saying, you know what, all buildings matter, not just those towers that fell. You know how many other buildings?
Or more like all terrorist attacks matter. Why is this one special? That's
right. But
I know you're saying.
So in so many ways, it's like, it becomes just more so of a counter
instead of an opinion or a question. They go with
it's a
rebuttal
let's
and a counter.
And then it's always it's a race card, and then it's like and that's and that's another problem that it has, because what happens is when you hear a lot of people say, oh, well, they're playing the race card and this and that, so on and so forth. No, that what happens when I hear that, all that shows me is that whoever those type of people are, they wanna shield. They want to do this, so they don't have to see the nastiness of it. You know what I mean? Or so I don't, or so others can't see the racism that may be inside of that little racist boy or girl may be inside of you. So at the end of the day, I'm straightforward. I've seen little different passive aggressive comments and things on Facebook, and that's those type of things. At the end of the day, that's what frustrates people when you're going through something that directly affects you, and you have to see the lack of concern or the lack of care because it's not at someone else's doorstep. That's where it becomes a problem. That's
It's
where it
very
becomes
disheartening.
problematic. You know what I mean? And like I said, I have. See, I'm a father, and I love my kids, and I will protect them at all costs. I'll give one and I'll take one. Trust me. So my thing is when I look at how it starts to become a norm, I don't want to turn on my social media or TV or anything and see someone that looks like me or that's the color of my children getting gunned down and there's no justice being served for that. You know what I'm saying? And then that becomes somewhat of a norm. So then that's not going to ever be a norm for me. And I'm never going to teach that as, that's just how it is. No, that's not how it's going to be. And at the end of the day, I'm going to fight for it, man. And I don't know. It's just frustrating. And for those people who don't quite understand, anybody that knows me, I'm really open for good intellectual dialogue.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Sharpen me. You know what I mean? Be
Great
able
attitude.
to, make sure,
Right.
but make sure you come correct. Make sure your
Right.
pencil is sharpened when you come to the table with me. However, I'm open. I'm always open for that. But what happens is you get people who don't want to at least hear it.
That's the biggest.
The biggest problem is like, just listen, because you're talking to people who deal with this on a regular. And I'm human. And if it was anyone else, if roles were reversed, you would want that same type of courtesy from others. You know what I'm saying? But don't look at me. Don't look at me, and then we don't. And let's not get into the whole Constitution situation because we were only considered, especially black men and women, black folks, people of color, were only considered 3/5 of a human anyway when that stuff was being written. So you have to understand that we have a certain feeling, especially living in America.
Oh, and people just disregard how it's been. We're talking 150, 160 years ago, where slavery was abolished. That's 4 or 5 generations ago.
That's not fair.
We are really
Right.
not too far away.
It really
from
isn't if you think of it.
When you think
all
of
the
it,
years.
yeah, exactly. It's like you said. A lot of people will just defend that authoritarianism, and that's like their first shot. Another thing that really bugs me is they always people that when we're trying to have this conversation. They will talk about, well, what about black on black crime? This is bullshit. Because you never hear about white on white crime. You never hear about Asian on Asian crime.
Right.
This is racist in itself when you talk about black on black crime. It's to steer you away from the conversation we're trying to have.
Right. 86%. Let's put that number out there for those of you who love to talk about black on black crime. White on white crime, when a white man or a white person is killed by another white person, is 86% of their own kind. So it's not that far. Yes, it's a little bit bigger with
There's
the black,
more white in
with,
the country, so that would make sense. Yeah.
Right. So and it's a little bit, and of course the number is a little bit higher with the blacks, but it's not that far off. So let's have a holistic conversation. Let's not turn it over into that, because what that does, and you guys excuse my passion because I do speak with passion.
Oh no,
but
I
it
do
is,
too, so
thank God.
This is a place where we can be that way.
Right, so and that's the thing. Like, let's have a holistic conversation, not this very parochial, narrow-minded, one-sided conversation.
Only political. Let's put in feeling our actual souls into this and think just as a human. I always try to say, because
put yourself in someone else's shoes for once.
That's the best.
For once.
They always say that too. I mean, when you're a kid, or treat others as you'd like to be treated. And exactly, another rebuttal that people like to say is, "Oh, but you don't see white people going crazy when when they got shot by the police unarmed." And it's but it's not about. It's another rebuttal or trying to compare, and we can't compare these things together because they're two different.
Absolutely.
Communities of people that have gone through different things throughout the centuries and the years. It's
still
gentlemen,
go through
I'm
different
going to
things.
cut in here. First of all, what Johnny just said is very interesting. I'm going to give you a couple of comments off the internet that have come in, and then I'm going to ask after that if you would, Dante, give the number out, and then I'll scroll it along the bottom. No problem. It would be good if others would pipe in, but. Robin pointed out, Dante, you are so right. I'm with you 100%. John wrote and said, I only know what it's like to be white in America. Black, Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, gay, women, Native, all have different American experiences.
Absolutely.
So true. And what's good here is, this is why I wanted to kind of cut in, is that the most clear example of white versus black in being singled out is that example you brought up earlier of a young man with a long arm, so to speak, with a rifle, walking past police.
Oh yeah.
And had it been if he had been any opposite color, had he been Middle Eastern,
Game over.
They would have took him down. They would have ran him over,
Right.
Because it was right there.
So Dante, would you give us the phone number and I'll run the scroll?
That would be 716-236-5688.
Plus tax. It is New
Plus
York.
tax.
And please call in. Don't be afraid. Like you're not going to be judged. We don't judge here. Everybody has the right to their opinion, and we would love any questions or opinions are appreciated. So don't feel afraid to call in. And also, I just wanted to mention, thankfully, Jacob Blake is still with us, and he's no longer, according to New York Times, he is no longer going to be shackled to the bed, which I cannot believe. He's even shackled to the bed. He doesn't even know what's going on right now, as his parents, have said. And, I do appreciate what they said, though, when they said, he would not want people burning down his and the people who are doing it city, because for him in his name, he wouldn't like that, and it just, you know what I mean? The bigger problem is this issue with race and the inequality, and then a problem that would come second, is the fact that a lot of people who have lived there, including people of color, families have their own personal small businesses that have they've worked their butts off for, that were destroyed. And so that's understandable. You know what I mean? It's just like we have to come. I wish we didn't have to riot. Number one, if there could only be a certain way that really could get, just like looting and burning does get the attention. If there's a way we can find that's a positive way to truly be able to express how done we are with this whole situation without having to destroy or hurt anybody or anything.
And
it sucks that we cannot get there yet.
One of the things that I'm trying to see how to formulate. I'm not trying to find out how to say it. I'm gonna say it. A lot of people, say violence isn't the answer, and I get that portion, right? A lot of times people forget that, it's law of, it's law, like,
you mean like a primal
one action causes a reaction,
right?
And a lot of this violence that's taking place now is happening because of violence, inhumane, savage-like treatment that happened to a certain group of people. So
7 bullets.
7 bullets in the man's.
That's violence
in
unto
the
itself.
back. Watch this.
7.
Matter of fact, if you come in my house and you rob my house, or you come and you do something and then you're running away, if I shoot you once in your back, I'm going to jail,
and
because it's illegal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So you got cops who shot a man 7 times in his back. Like, come on.
While he's not turned towards you in the back, he's automatically going and fall. Yeah, it was overkill, and that's something that, like, I know
that's coward.
Right, I know in police, you're trained, and they tell you, to be careful. Like, if you don't know if they have a weapon, you have to think it's either, personally, you have to think it's either his or my life, So I understand that concept, but overkill and poor training or poor ways of going about a situation is the biggest issue.
If there was any justification for a murder, it'd be with that white man who was slinging a machete.
Yeah, well, right. That would be, right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Like killing somebody because their life's in danger.
Right.
If somebody's running away, fuck. They run away. You like go catch them, or they get away. There is no like I'm gonna shoot that person to apprehend them. Well, I mean, what the hell's the training?
It seems like there's there's no accountability with everybody being trained the same. You know what I mean? Or just everybody has to be held. Every police force should be held to the same standard at how they go about taking care of a situation, and I feel like it was opposite. With the white guy with the machete, they should have went and shot him, if anything, because he was
Can I offer you a perspective on that too? And not to interrupt you, Johnny. A couple of years ago in May, if you remember, and I'm sorry I don't have a camera on me, but a couple of years ago, there was a man who drove a van down Yonge Street in Toronto.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
He killed a number of people.
That was bad.
The technician who works for me here comes from Toronto, and his secretary who was killed was one of the women. It really affected them. Now, what happened in that case was this man was obviously mentally deranged. I mean, he had to be to take that action. And what he did was he drove down the street and the police started pursuing him. One police officer countered him. He got out of the van because I think it was damaged. And when he got out of the van, he told the policeman, "I've got a gun."
Yep,
The policeman, if you've seen this video, it's amazing. The policeman has the gun pointed out at him. I'm using my hands here as if it's happening. And the man says, "I have a gun." The cop says, "I don't care. Get down on the ground." And this continues for a while. Now, anywhere in America, I heard this said that they were using this as an example. Anywhere in the United States, the minute you tell an officer you have a gun, that officer could interpret it as lethal force applied against them. So shoot.
Right.
And this officer stood him down. And the man eventually surrendered, and not a shot was fired. And that was brought up many times as an example that police do not have to employ lethal force.
Right. We actually have a caller.
We got a call on the line. Caller, you on the line?
Hey, how you guys doing?
What's going on? This is my buddy Kimsa. What's up, man?
What's up, Kimsa?
Yay.
What's up?
How's everyone doing? How you guys doing?
Man,
Good.
we're great, man.
How are you?
I'm doing really well. Really, really well. I'm really enjoying the show. I wrote several comments because I'm really, really intrigued in today's topic.
Yeah. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry.
We
Okay.
actually have a call.
One second. We're just.
Caller, you on the line?
Kemsa, you got to turn down
That
the
might be
source.
me.
Oh
I
yeah.
think
If
that
you
might
could.
be me.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Now we're good.
That was me.
Okay. So yeah, what were you saying?
No, I was just saying I'm really, really intrigued. I was really, really intrigued in today's show. You guys started off really well. The questions that were asked, I left a few answers in the comments. I believe you guys are doing a really, really good job in how you guys are laying out and expressing your feelings. And they're right on.
Appreciate
Thank
that,
you so
bro.
much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Did you
Well,
have?
Kemsa, you're going to be part of another project Dante's undertaking, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
I'm excited for
I'm
that.
very excited. I'm very excited. Very, very excited.
Well, you know that when I'm writing in public and stuff like that, I'm saying that Black Lives Matter, but right now Black voices matter equally. That they, rather than just shouting in rage, Black voices need to help us understand, help us as a society heal, and bring Black leadership into
People
communities
like
where
Dante
it's
and Kimsa.
lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the program that Dante, he's the you and he are planning it. It's going to be of and from the African American community, but I'm excited for it because I want to learn.
And a good friend of mine, Shayna Smith, she's definitely she's going to be another co-host that's on that one as well. You know, to get the Black woman's perspective as well. You know what I mean? I'm just very
important.
Very important.
That is.
You know what I mean? But and like I said earlier, it's really about the education piece. It's not about trying to blast any other, race
Or brainwash
or try to, just try to make everyone think like me as if I'm in a freaking matrix or something like that. At the end of the day, we all have, everyone thinks in different, and that's cool. That's fine. That's what makes the world go around. I don't need everybody to co-sign with what I say or how I feel. The thing is that, but don't try to downplay a struggle when it is a struggle. You know what I mean? Just because you don't struggle with it. And I think that's probably one of the bigger issues that makes the frustration a little bit heavier.
Empathy and being able to relate to someone, not like the fact that we can't relate as, like I say, human beings and not as, it's not like, you can relate to someone of a different race, you can be empathetic to someone of a different race. And it's important to realize like that we have souls. We're more than, we can be more than what the world and society looks at us as today. We could really truly be at a higher level of respect, understanding, and like empathy,
progression.
And progression.
Right.
We really have to, like my generation and yours. I mean, we have to just get on the movement of stopping all of the things that really aren't going to affect people. We have to think of our future, because I sometimes like to say, and I don't mean disrespect to like the boomers or anything, but certain generations, I don't think
I'm the only boomer in the room.
Well, not every, of course.
Oh no, Bard.
Yeah, no, but not every boomer, but a lot of, I feel like, I think the generation before the boomers, though, too, they didn't really think that far into the future about the future generations. And I understand there was World War I and World War II. I just think that for the world to continue to be better, we do have to, even though the present is the most important, we do have to think of our future generation and how we're going to leave them. And, or, you know what I mean? We can set it up for them to then them take over where we left off, kind of thing, and make sure that we have their lives in mind, because then we'll know there's going to be at least progression, and it won't be a stalemate, or,
we got to respect that different culture.
Right.
You know, I grew up, I was actually abandoned at the age of 12 by my mother, and I went into group homes, foster homes. I actually had an African-American foster family, and I was brought into that culture and, you know, learned something other than just what my ancestors knew. I'm looking forward to you guys' future shows and to continue to educate, because this is exactly what we need, is the education on the different cultures, and to be able to have that mindset where you can listen, where, you know, that privileged white person who has been just rich their whole lives, you don't know what it's like to be poor or be African American and poor, living in the hood and stuff like that. You don't understand it. I have a more of an understanding,
and it's
of
okay
it than
to
more
people
white people
get offended if they don't understand. It's like
no, it's okay to not understand it. It's not okay to just ignore it.
Yes, exactly.
And I have more of an understanding of that, because, you know, of the situation I was in when I was a child.
That helped you out, though.
For sure,
You
for
know,
sure. And it really brought that education to me, and you know, this is why I can relate. This is why I can understand. I mean, I dealt with bullshit when I was homeless, sleeping on a park bench, being harassed by the police just because I was homeless. I mean,
the lowest point.
Exactly. Like
no human consideration.
There is none. It's just that I look. How am I being detrimental to society? If anything, like, society is being detrimental to me. Yeah, I'm glad you guys are doing this, and I look forward to
there's a lot of people, especially white people, who watch the show that are gonna learn a lot and are gonna benefit so much from it.
And I think it's the walls. One of the biggest issues is that we, especially here in like I've experienced here in Western New York a lot. My father used to tell me a lot about how racist the Western New York area was, and I've dealt with it. You know, being followed in the store whenever you know, trying to go shopping, and I had my little summer job, and I want to go buy a little something with the money that I made that I'm so proud of, and I'm being watched as if I'm going to steal something.
If you belong there,
you know,
or something
or you know, you see the people, you see the those people that are working there, you know, follow me around and stuff. I've seen that. I've been
told that as a worker, and I don't do it.
And I watch this. Here's the crazy part. I worked at Timberland, and I was told at that time, when you see like a group of when they seen a group of black people walk in the store, go watch them.
And they tell you it's.
And they told me, and I'm sitting up here like, how such
ignorant.
a slap in the face that is. But I seen that. Then there's my Grand Island situation where I got pulled over 14 times in 2.5 years that I lived there. One time was for something. I would say the 14th time, because I was on my phone calling that pregnant wife at the time, asking you know, what she wanted to drink, but I shouldn't have been on my phone. But however, you know, those were issues. But then I heard so much about it, but and then we fast forward to like now in these times, and what you hear and the stuff that you hear come out of people's mouths, like with such level of disrespect, hate, and just apathy, just lack of concern or care to even find out. That's why I talk about the walls. There are so many walls from one side of the town of Niagara County, period. Just walls that are up where people put up so they don't have to see what goes on the other side.
Because we're so diverse, I think too that they do the walls because there's a lot of diversity. So they'll put those walls up so they don't have to. They can live among other cultures, but they don't want to, acknowledge or take into the consideration, how they feel
or
about
don't want it
living
to
there.
affect their living space.
Right, exactly.
Homeless is okay if it's on 19th Street.
Yeah, as long as it's not.
Or violence and stuff is okay if it's in Midtown. You know what I mean? Or a heck of a bunch of low-income housing is okay if it's in the north end of Niagara Falls.
Right.
That's okay as long as it doesn't stretch towards my living quarters.
Right. Yeah.
So these are the
that's
things.
like a community.
We even see that on a national scale with the
border
border wall. I mean, we're talking about. These are our neighbors.
Right.
These are our neighbors. We don't want to help our neighbors. We just want to border them off. It's just really nonsense. If my neighbor needs help, I'm going to help my neighbor.
But that's a lack of appreciation for your neighbor. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like as a country, we have been taught, like, I see John brought up World War I and World War II. I think this was all pre-planned. Like, to not love our neighbor, not love the people that's been through certain plights, because we love and we revere others who've been through certain atrocities, the Irish famine. We celebrate St. Patty's Day to the fullest. You know what I mean? I've been out to parades and festivals and celebrate with the Irish, with Irish people. You know what I mean? I embrace the Italian festival. I embrace everybody's culture. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And from the start of our education, when we get taught of our African brothers and sisters, we get told that we just been slaves. We just weren't educated. I've been to certain houses where they got two black with big lips in a picture just eating watermelon, and it's advertised cigarettes for cigarettes back in the day. Yeah. And I'm like, this is how our representation has kept going for generations and generations and generations, where it could have been cleaned up with our history and education. Like, tell us about Louis Vladimir. Tell us about these great men that have made great contributions to this country. Tell us about the black man that created the air conditioner in which we use on these hot ass. On these hot,
and
you know what I mean? Tell us,
I'm sorry.
So our neighbors also appreciate us as we appreciate them.
Mm-hmm.
And I see exactly what you're saying. When the African American culture did really start progressing, look what happened in Tulane. The whole city was burned the fuck down.
Yeah.
And nobody, there was no charges, there was no nothing. It was just allowed. And we're talking less than 100 years ago. This is after slavery.
And we're not educated on that in school. So then when you see black people that are suffering in Chicago and these deprived areas, like, why they haven't made it yet? Why haven't they done anything yet in Philadelphia?
Because
when Black Wall Street was rocking and rolling, they were destroyed, literally bombed. So anything that was progressive was naturally killed by our government. So everything was planned to keep us at a certain mind state, primate state. But now we're out of that state. So my whole thing is, let's go ahead and learn, educate people, and show that the government is very twisted. Both parties.
Yes, you know what? I wanted to say, that's exactly right. And I always say this, back then during World War I and II, I definitely believe that as a society, people in power feared emotion and feared actual human feelings, and they were so upset too about war that they started almost, instead of embracing their, our country and trusting, they looked at our country as almost like there's a war still, you know what I mean, between citizens and races, and they didn't take out the fact that we're together. Let's embrace and let's not fear emotion, But I'm glad our generation is here because we embrace emotion and mental health, and I think that we can really make an impact. You know what I mean, and start changing things because we're including that.
That's a good point. I'm glad Kems is on the phone. As we carry with this, you've mentioned World War I and II a couple of times, Johnny, and I'm the son of World War II veteran who's still alive at 95.
Oh, wow.
An interesting world. at the end of the war, he actually, because he was a wireless air gunner on bombers, it meant that he ran the radio, and I guess he did some relief missions to liberated concentration camps, and so but one thing we have to remember is that Hitler utilized paranoia and hatred. He had neighbors spying on each other, similar to some things that are happening right now.
Could use it for good,
but you know, it's the ugliest thing in history. He had a national pride to assuage. They lost World War I, and what did he do? He found a common enemy in the Jewish people, and he hated blacks. He wouldn't give Jesse Owens the medal at the Olympics.
I just watched something about that a few months ago.
Yeah.
That was a horrible thing. And then he also wouldn't have the Jewish members be on the team, but he had the 2 black men go out back on the team. But it was horrible that Olympics.
He killed 2 million gypsies.
An undertone to that is.
But he also had a Jewish mother. Like Adolf Hitler had problems, and we learn so much about this man in school. Like it's just like, to me, it's like crazy. Like we sometimes breed our little Hitlers out here that go out and do these terrorist attacks,
right?
And then we wonder why this is going on. What do you mean?
Because people,
every year, more about Adolf Hitler and serial killers and other killers, Stalin, in our education, instead of learning about people that try to stand up for our rights and get women rights. I can't tell you 8 women that were freedom fighters for women. I can't tell you because they didn't teach it.
Right.
Really?
There's so much fear, I think, too. That's why they want you to know about him, so it doesn't happen again. And real quick, then I'll just, I think people always, take it wrong, because he was a smart guy, and if people always say, this is what I always hear, if he would have been good and used his good and wasn't evil, because he was, he could have done great things, but we can't think of that, and you know what I mean. And you're right. We should know more about people who have done wonderful things, especially in our country, instead of really promoting too much on that subject.
Johnny, he was a clever manipulator.
Right.
The problem is
that's what I'm saying.
Hitler wasn't the only one. There have been clever manipulators
He just sticks out because of the recent and
when we are being manipulated as a society, and right now, what did Hitler use? He used propaganda. What do we use? The media.
Yeah, and that's the same.
Right.
Seems like the big ups are against all of us average people. That's how I feel like.
Nobody will be taught about Karl Marx. Nobody will be taught about Karl Marx because of his communist agenda, when the man even said himself that capitalism could be a great thing as long as it wasn't abused. And what we see is abuse in capitalism. And we've seen it forever.
Right. I remember learning
so Marxism, I mean, you can't talk about socialism without somebody bringing up some ridiculous socialist leaders like Stalin and stuff like that. You don't hear about the good socialism. You don't hear about Denmark. You don't hear about Finland. You don't hear about this stuff because it goes against the capitalist
You need both
agenda.
sides.
Until we have that third party that I am fighting my ass off for, that they have a voice, them Democrats, let me tell you, with they say that they're going to they have the black people that they are for them. Let me tell you, they're kicking you out of that fucking car as soon as this fucking
they are using and pandering to the black community, and that's what makes me sick, is I see them supporting
and that's what they have to do, because the Republicans, I feel, to some point have the people that feel like I'm superior vote. So I feel like Democrats, why did I get the black vote? And it's like, you're getting these votes for what? Because all y'all doing is effing us in the end. Because how can companies in Silicon Valley just on Wednesday make $950 billion, and we have poor veterans out here on homeless. We have homeless children out here.
Addiction and everything
going on in America, but we have 4 companies that can make $950 billion, but all this corruption.
Of our taxpayer money.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
the billionaires need to be checked, basically. In some way, we have to figure that out.
Gentlemen, there's one example I don't think any of us ever talk about when it comes to the racial tension right now that goes on. And one day I was leaving a cathedral in Toronto and I bumped into Bishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa. And I had never met a more gentle, loving, life-loving man. But I think I honestly think of a lot of the South African situation through Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for how long? How many years? It was like 3 decades.
People thought
or
he
whatever.
died too.
Yeah, and 23 million people couldn't vote in places like Botswana, the homelands where they were forced to live, but they had to work in the cities. A horrible, horrible situation. Apartheid. It was evil.
Oh, that was bad.
But can you imagine Nelson Mandela, who left prison and could have led a bloody uprising, and yet he embraced forgiveness towards healing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm not trying to generalize. There was good and bad. And John pipes in, both parties have horrible records on race, by the way. That's
True.
another good part.
Facts.
But, I take the lesson of Nelson Mandela that rather than trying to fight with each other, that's what I think Dante's efforts are, and Kemsa. I think it's great that Wade joined us tonight, and Johnny, you've been a great voice as well, is that it's time to start embracing healing. Start dialogue, talk, and get to healing. Stop raising guns when we think
Be a person
threatened.
instead of thinking of your political or thinking of someone else's way of teaching. Like, think as, like you said, Nelson Mandela took the time to look inside and as a human, and he chose the right route. You know what I mean? It's always the most difficult route, the good route, because the good guys, there's always evil in the world, but good eventually does overcome evil. It's usually a long battle.
I would say there has to be a political agenda, because no matter if the right or the left win, when the blue or the red, guess what? You lose. Yeah. That's just it. There needs to be a party of the people. There needs to be a party of the people, and until we understand that, there is going to be no change.
Even with local elections. I mean, I'm an outspoken person on the fact that our city council is 5 white males, and our city leadership
that needs to change.
that sits in council, not all the people in the city hall, because there are some great people from the African American community, like Alan Booker, I believe it's Booker, works for community or business development. But until we get black voices in those decisions, we will. I think
women.
it's and women, yes, and that's what I was saying. There's only one woman sits there, and she is the city clerk, and so I personally believe that this dialogue is going to grow as long as we start listening and looking at these situations and changing them.
Healing,
healing, and. And tonight I had the first opportunity to meet Dante's children, and they are beautiful people. And they walked in the room, and it's so wonderful. I know Wade's kids. We work with Wade's kids on projects, and I'm hoping Dante's daughter will get involved.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yep, and that just to start. Of course, this building has to open from the COVID crisis, and they don't have the staff to maintain the door. But we'll get there. And, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up.
And we're not going to
and I'm going to remember Nelson Mandela because, and Stephen Biko and others who died fighting for freedom. And it might be South Africa, so far away from here. But it's a great example that no matter how long our racial issues have been going on, they can heal if we'll apply the right medication.
Right.
We can heal.
Kemsa, did you want to talk about? I wanted to make sure you have a chance to talk too.
Oh no, I'm just listening and taking everything in. I agree with Stephen Biko. It's people like that need to be taught. Like, people need to know about these certain people. Like, he's South African, but we're all we're African. At the end of the day, like, I don't care if you're from Haiti or because those are just free slaves. So it's just like we're all the same people. Let's embrace our culture and learn and have our neighbors actually embrace us too, because we have the same patriots that give Patriots Day with Mel Gibson. We have those same warriors as well that should be championed and made movies out of instead of Menace to Society and certain movies. That
even us white people have to understand we're African.
Right.
Yeah, great point.
That's why I always say we're all the same species, and we all have the ability to intellectually think and emotionally think.
Everybody
and
needs to understand.
we're
that,
evolved, right? We're supposed to be the evolved top of the line, and right now I'd say we're
We all
pretty
came
much
from Lucy.
we're pretty much
Right.
just as primal as any other animal in the kingdom in these certain issues, and we just got to really overcome this
And
and realize the bigger picture.
True story is this: for healing to take place, it's just like the AA meetings. The first thing you got to do is you got to admit that this is a problem, that this problem exists.
Yep.
And as long as people try to put these, these shaders or blinders over
That it
the
isn't
truth,
yeah.
and as if, hey,
They're in
if we
denial.
don't talk about it,
Yeah.
it'll go away. It's like COVID.
No.
It's just gonna go away.
And
you know what I mean?
I just won't talk about it, but I'm addicted. You know what I mean? It's like hiding and being.
Yeah, and guess what?
And I agree.
Not talking about it and not getting a sheer understanding about it is not going to make it go away.
Right.
And and that's why it's good to speak on it, because at the end of the day, it's better. I'd rather the masses would rather me speak on it than for me to hold it in.
Yes.
Because if I hold it in, at some point I'm going to erupt.
Right. That's why everybody has to speak.
I mean,
Let
me tell you, the governments would rather have us protest than start organizing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly
but
what we need.
I like what Wade just said about the organization, because my thing is I understand Caucasian people, they've been through their plight too, and don't feel like they're getting the best media coverage as far as their plight. I feel as if we should get more justice instead of the media, because the media skews us and make us look like thugs, and then they parade that on and be like, oh my God, look at this man, he had a knife. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not unbiased anymore. It's biased media. I asked my professor in college that. I said, what is the point of learning how to be unbiased when every station is biased,
Right. So like I agree exactly what you just said. So I feel like if my white neighbors, my white brothers looked at the political parties in which they love so much and said, yo, y'all really fucking us. You're not doing nothing for me. Right. The same way you're not doing nothing for my black neighbor, my black brother. Why are we need to align to get you the hell out of here. You've been in this office for 20 years not doing anything for nobody, but you running for president. Joe Biden's running for president but hasn't done anything for nobody.
He hasn't done anything.
Right.
Exactly. I was just going to say he's done nothing, and he's a creep, but we'll get,
Well, we thought we had Bernie Sanders on our side until we realized that, he's just a sheepdog keeping the sheep in line.
And he's so old, Jesus.
So, there's something else. There's just what you think that Democratic Party is. They will say they are, but after election time, they're not.
Yeah.
No matter who you vote for, the government always gets in.
Right, and it's
right.
picking the lesser of the two evils of the parties too, is what people are doing now.
I'm so
and
sick
it's sad
of
that we have to do that.
tactics.
I feel like we have to do that though until we can get to a point. You know what I mean?
don't.
Where we
We
can.
don't.
I mean,
I feel like we don't have
We don't have to. I'm saying
I
it's-
could go to sleep
yeah.
at night if I could, knowing that I voted for Howie Hawkins in this election.
Oh, no,
even
yeah.
though I know he's not.
I'm saying it's easier. It would be it would be easier to do that, but it's going to take, like I said, for the good battle, it's going to take way more hard work and fighting to get there. That's what I'm saying. We could get there faster if we did the easy route, which is what I was saying, and I don't agree. I agree with what you're saying. Like I'd rather vote for someone and then be able to sleep at night. You know what I mean?
Scare tactics
we
and
have to-
manipulation
yeah.
has controlled our country too long.
Yeah,
Way
so
too
it's going to
long.
just take.
Yeah,
We have to
great
just be
point.
in for this battle. It's going to be a bit, and that's what I'm trying to get.
I'd like to point something out here that I'm really kind of excited by, which is, Kemsa, do you know how far back Donta and Wade go?
I do not.
90 minutes. Now, I want you to think about this. We've all been kind of following this conversation, and I know I'm the voice with no face, and that's probably a good thing. But what happens here is, Donta, wouldn't you agree that Wade is a well-informed person?
Oh, absolutely.
Just
Like-
as I agree with Dante.
Yeah. Yeah.
90 minutes that we've known each other.
Right.
Right. So, and this forum allowed us to learn about each other. And so what I'm saying is that maybe we're on, like, I'm really excited about Dante's projects as well to keep this show going, because we're starting to let people, we're finding out that we have the capacities to communicate. We're discovering people.
And common interests.
Yes.
Way more
Yeah.
than the media makes it seem.
And watch this. Here's the crazy part. Here's one thing I like to highlight as well. the black community has not always been torn down. You know what I mean? There are some beautiful portions of the beautiful portions of my growing up experience. Right. I grew up in a neighborhood right now that has been neglected for a long time, the north end of Niagara Falls. I grew up, you know what I'm saying, in a neighborhood where we had Mr. Brown's, a black-owned grocery store, Miss King's, a black-owned meat store. We had Miss Packer, the candy lady, who was like the children's god, basically. You know what I mean? We had our Prices in the bars, and Mr. Hills, who served the best chicken gizzards and rice I've ever tasted, and God rest his soul. But these are things that like I grew up with that wasn't highlighted, really. We kind of almost took it for granted in the black community because it was there. Right. But it were things now that I sit back and I look at it, I'm like, you know, those are beautiful things, and how we were able to, I was able to walk to the grocery store by the age of 6.
A community.
Because I had people watch it. We had a village.
Yeah,
the village was taking care of us.
Yeah,
there were people out.
I lived out here in Niagara Falls as a little kid before I was abandoned, and I remember we had like organized street football teams.
Right.
Like I was on the same football team as James Starks and Saquon Starks, and we dominated 89th Street and 101st Street. Like I was the quarterback. We were killing these guys, but it was so fun, and it was all brought by the kids from the community. And that's something we really need to get back to. We don't see kids outside playing football anymore, going to them parks or anything like that.
And then adding technology just ruins it even more.
Right.
Imagination
so
is
we
not
desperately need that.
Yeah. Imagination is hard to come by. Like, you know, I've seen little kids, they freak out if it's nice outside. They can't go on their iPads. They're freaking out and they just sit there. And I'm thinking, like, there's no imagination, no fun with playing with the nature.
Let me tell you, I'm one of them helicopter parents, and I also believe it's the media that scared all of us. We are so scared about like our kids being kidnapped and shit like that.
That too, way more than when we were kids.
Way more than we were kids.
So
it really just what we used to have, that amazing thing that we used to have, and just be outside all the time with our friends, riding our bikes, playing sports. You don't see it anymore because of how the media has just scared us out of it.
And I feel like something happened, like when 9/11 happened, that's when I personally, and a lot of people that I talk to agree with me, feels like the vibe of just life changed. And that's why people always talk about how the 90s were, or before that, the 80s or 70s. There was just a different vibe I feel in the air, and I can't describe it right now, but once that happened, I felt like that's when things changed, especially with the media, like you were saying, Wade, and how they got really, really, you know, trying to scare tactics so much, you know, because of I think, you know, the war and the attack on us, and it didn't help. It actually negatively impacted us instead of helping us and protecting us, right.
Is that sad that I believe that we've had these maniacs on this earth in the 80s, 90s, and all the times that we enjoy it? I just feel like we just never knew because we didn't have as much media outlets. We didn't have cell phones like that growing up. You know what I mean?
Those are the pros and cons.
You know what I mean? Unless we stayed up and watched, what was it? Unsolved Murder.
Right.
That guy whose son was kidnapped and murdered. Like,
there's so many shows now too.
I watched Lifetime with my mother, and you know, they showed the people that were most wanted. I'm like, Jesus, people are doing this stuff?
Right. Like, we knew locally, but not worldwide like we do now.
Right now it's a commonality because you can literally look somewhere what's going on in China, how they're taking everybody's dogs. I mean, not in China, North Korea, how they're taking everybody's dogs.
I would die if they tried to take my cats.
So it's like we're seeing horrific things every day. So it's like it's just getting normalized.
Yeah, and these kids are growing up like that. Yeah, that's what is scaring me about the younger generations, is I'm afraid for them and for the well-being because of the being so, I can't even say the word right now, desensitized, you know, they're desensitized. And I feel like they were, you know, people would always say that my generation, you know, is desensitized, but it's like they're literally from birth desensitized. You know what I mean? Because this media has always been a part of their life. Technology has always been a part of their existence. And they're going to have, besides physical ailments with arthritis and eye issues, they're going to have a lot more issues, I think, coming into terms with things being so crucial. We got
to realize that us as parents are kind of to blame as well.
Well, that every parent,
Right.
I mean, it's up to you.
Gentlemen, we've come into over an hour now, and
we came in late, so we're pretty good.
Oh no, I know we came in late, but we're coming into the home stretch. So here's my thought. First of all, I want to acknowledge everyone who's been following us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I'm going to go around to all of you, including Kemsa, to ask for a final statement. But John pointed out, interesting enough, he said it's not going to change until my generation leaves. And or is gone, and he's 49. You know,
sad that
so John, I do want to say, John, if you guys want to leave now, that's okay. No, no, but I appreciated his candor.
Yeah,
and I'm the oldest male in the room, so I'm kind of like dad in here. But gentlemen, let's start with Wade. What are you taking away tonight?
I'm taking away that I've always seen it. I will continue to preach out, and that we have done some great things in Niagara County, and we are not as segregated as other states. So I will just continue to say that this right here, me meeting Donta for this hour and a half that I have, just shows how we can relate, and we need to get them. Right-minded people that don't preach hate together, so we can continue this. I really look forward to working with you guys in the future on anything. As long as we're not creating the hate and we are creating that peace.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Johnny, what do you think? What are you taking away tonight?
Just I guess maybe even I'm glad Wade was here because just exploring how like a third party is very crucial to helping just get everything to where we're supposed to be in this world and what's right, and just that once again, like I basically have said every week, just that we can overcome this and we can all get together. Clearly, like you were saying, Peter, that we can have different. You can have different political views, or you can have different thoughts and opinions, but we can still come together for the greater good and actually do something about it and not fight each other or have a big fight like what we see in the streets. We can actually all come together and do this, and this is literally all different parties, so I feel like we can do this if we just be smart about it.
We're on the way, aren't we?
Yes, I think we're definitely on the way. I just hope we can get there in our lifetime.
In a song about Stephen Biko, just to add to your point, in a song about Stephen Biko, Peter Gabriel wrote, "You can blow out a candle, but you can't blow out a fire. Once the flames begin to catch, the wind will move it higher." And I think we're starting something.
I agree. I like that.
Before we go to Donta, because we
didn't start the fire either.
Oh yeah, we didn't start the fire, right? Kemsa, what are you taking away tonight?
I've taken away a lot. I appreciate you guys letting me call in and talk. I really do. I just wanted to end off and just say that I feel like we don't need the elder generation to die off. I just feel we need the elder generation.
No, I don't feel that either.
Educate them.
Yeah,
I feel like we need to open up and realize that they have been lied to. They have been
they've been trained basically.
They've been manipulated and trained to feel and act a certain way, just like we all have been. Both of these parties have manipulated and played us all, and in some way has hurt us all in either a war or in some type of disaster that they knew was coming. So I feel like we as people need to align, respect each other, look at our elders and just really look at them and say, you guys may be a little ignorant on something. Here's the education here, and stop these stereotypes that's plaguing America, because we need each other. And I feel like what these athletes are doing right now, stopping these games and doing certain things is perfect, because billionaires endorse these parties. These people feel like they're holding these people up. No, it's these billionaires that's endorsing them fully. So if you make a billionaire have to change his mind because a black player or a black athlete somewhere is saying, I'm not going to play, you're not going to get those millions of dollars for that advertisement on Fox News, you're going to see reform. And that's all I'm asking for, is this reform. I'm asking for an equal playing field for all of us.
Can I jump in real quick? Let me tell you, my party, Here's a shout out to my party. The Green Party is the only party in America that doesn't accept money from corporation and lobbyists.
Good.
Therefore, nobody's in our pocket, and what you are
No
saying
ulterior
is
motive.
exactly correct. These billionaires are funding them to big parties, and like I said earlier in the show, it doesn't matter who wins, you lose.
Yeah.
Well
That's a
put.
fact.
And we're going to go to thank you, Kemza.
Thank you
very
so much, Kemza.
and for
Thank
being
you for
part of
calling in
it.
too.
And Dante, you get the final word tonight.
One thing that I've learned in life is that you're not going to get everyone to agree. I've learned that, everyone isn't going to march to the beat of your drum. I totally get that. The biggest thing is I grew up in the church. So there are certain scriptures that, I kind of like, I'm okay with, you know what I mean? I have my own spiritual journey. It doesn't really look like the church, but however, that's another show for another time. But a few that I do like is that in all thine getting, get an understanding. And for one to express the facts of what they go through, and for people to shoot them down or shun them away or to try to downplay that right there is where the frustration happens. So understand, so what I get out of the whole thing is all of thine getting, we all need to get an understanding. Mm-hmm. And then there's the other side of it where, we cry loud and spare not. Because at the end of the day, you have to get, I say this, I use this term, you're going to get this work. At the end of the day, there are things that people go through, and I'm not just talking about me, but there are things that people go through in life that others should know about and get it, so you can be able to have that level of be empathetic for them. You know what I'm saying? And be able to say, you know what? Maybe I don't go through this, but now that I have a better understanding, your burden has now become mine. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's the thing. And so I'm always going to close, for me, empathy over apathy.
Amen.
Yes, that should be one of our lines for sure, because it all goes back to that.
All right. Well, gentlemen, Wade, Kemza,
Thank you guys.
Dante,
for
Thank you,
and
Wade. Thank
Johnny.
you,
Peter.
Kemza.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
And thank you,
Oh,
Peter.
always
It
a
wouldn't
joy.
we wouldn't be here without you. So thank you so much. And
it's
thank
a
you for
joy.
thank you for watching, everybody, and commenting. And
Yes.
please watch again next week at 7 on Friday, and call in, and please share too. Also, and not even just share. Let them know that this is a very progressive and it's a very positive and educational show that everybody can be a part of. So.
Well said. And peace out from Wade over there. And
Wade.
everyone, have a great night. God bless you.
Yes, have a
and
great night. God bless.
We will heal.
Yes. Bye-bye, guys.